And now I'd like to turn the program over to Craig Yerger, Clinical Development Coordinator. Take it away, Craig.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our FDR Go Plus presentation today. We're going to use a combination of camera angles and cameras to give you guys an overview of the FDR Go Plus. The goal for me was to present a series of topics that will provide your end users with a very strong FDR Go Plus setup, provide you guys with a little settings, user settings for the portable, service utility, user utility. The presentation topics will be this area here, including common warnings, some FDX console security, which we'll touch on also, and then some special functions at the end of the presentation that I hope will be helpful to you and the end users. This information is available in the quick guides for the FDR Go Plus. It is also available in the operation manuals. And we're going to start off with the user settings area of the FDR Go Plus portable.
Oh, the FDX?
FDR Go.
Okay. Over here.
Thank you. So if anyone has, most of you I'm sure have worked on or seen an FDR Go Plus. This is our generator controls. So what I wanted to do was to start with the generator controls, user settings, then migrate to the service utility, user utility, and ensure that everyone will be able to function inside of this unit. And the video would be available for future review. So the first thing you're presented with is some service engineers and customers will require a PID or a password to log into the portable itself. Once the unit is turned on, you'll see an entry in this box here with the P. That's requesting a PID password. That P could be set by your service engineer. In this instance, our password is 1234, and then I'll hit the key to log in. With that, you'll see that your technique is then posted or presented to you in the KVP and mass fields. Just as a quick review, over here on the left-hand side, you'll have your KVP, your mass. This is your power on button. Up here, you have a light that corresponds to the horizontal arm of the FDR Go Plus. That blue indicator light, again, is power. It will also represent or flash when the system is charging. It will change to an amber and for exposure, and a prep light will also be available for you as well. Coming across the generator controls here, you do have manual control over your mass. Our systems for the FDR Go Plus are driven by anatomical programs. Our anatomical program list is about 400 codes deep. Usually we only build our menus up to about 250 APR codes. So above 300, should you need to create an APR code, would be available for you. You have your small and large focal spot indicator, your collimator light icon here for toggling on and off your collimator, your sound icon here. This next button is your extended mass button. And the extended mass button allows you to exceed the, to enter into a longer exposure time to allow you to achieve greater than 125 mass at 80 kVp. It is only available per menu. So each menu that is actually loaded, you'd have to reselect the extended mass button here. Added filtration would be this button. Our next button is your CRDR, and I will come back to that button shortly. Over here, you do have an info button. If we had a study open, we would be able to tap that button and see what actual APR code is attached to that specific menu. That can be tapped at any point once a study is loaded to get an accurate identification of the anatomical program being used. This top button here is your user settings button, your key lock here, and your 0 button here. I want to go back to the PID. I'm going to turn the unit off for a second or two. And then I'm going to turn the key back on. And I want to discuss with you is the PID can actually have an additional value. So once the PID is actually applied to a unit, putting in a simple user 1, 2, 3, 4 or 4 ones and then hitting the key does not open all of the user settings functions. If I was to enter into the user settings under the 1, 2, 3, 4 or general user PID, pressing and holding the user settings button will allow you to enter that. I'll scroll through the user settings here. I will go through a few of these, but you'll notice that certain user settings are not available with the general user entry PID. To enter the complete user settings selections, you would have to enter in with a more powerful PID, and that number is 001875. Then hit the key button. Now, once I go into the user settings, I now will have the full complement of options for me to select or address while in the user settings. I do want to cover a few of them specifically, and the ones that we from apps do look at. We bypass PAS. We generally do not touch any of the speed controls, sensitivity of steering. We allow service to handle that. Reason being, there are certain setup and tools required to recalibrate the handle if necessary, and we usually let the service control that. If you did need a little bit of acceleration, you can up that by hitting the plus on the minus, and it will be entered in the mass field. Steering control, again, I try to avoid touching any of those. Auto power off, APO, that is one that I strongly suggest any applications does verify is set up. That auto power off in this instance would terminate or shut down the system at 5 minutes. And when I say system, the FDX console is separate from the portable. So in this auto power off, all it's doing is dropping the portable unit into kind of a sleep mode or in a power off. To wake it up, the technologist would just turn the key off and then back on, or touch any lock release or button on the unit will wake it up very quickly. Less than a second, I would say. It's actually faster just to squeeze the handle than it is to turn the key on and off. But the auto power off does have a few selections. You can change it from, meaning the dash, the auto power off function is turned off itself. I usually set this anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the site's workflow and clinical use. Auto power off, APO. The next one is your beep on. Some technologists and some sites will be a little resistant to those tones that you're hearing as I'm moving my buttons. If you turn this be on to be off, you can actually turn the beep to off. To record any setting, once it's adjusted, press the key button, and that will record that change. If you try to make multiple changes on multiple settings, they won't stick. You have to change, then set each one individually. So if you notice now I'm touching buttons and there is no sound because I had turned off the beep. Our sound, there's in the operation manual, there's and service utility or service manual, there are some conversations on your sounds. From an applications perspective, usually I do not touch the entry here 1 or 2. 1 is your prep, 1 is your exposure sound, 2 is your prep sound. Which one I want to bring to your attention is the third one. So if you tap the minus button again, you'll see the first digit in this mass field will change to a 3. That's for your movement sounds. Generally, your customers will prefer to have no movement sounds. If that is the case, you would go into user settings, advance using the info button till you hit sound, then hit the minus button till you see 3 in the first entry. 4 is the type of sound, meaning the type of beep, and the volume will be controlled here on the third digit that's blinking. To increase that sound, hit the little bell sound here, and you can change the volume of that sound. So if you find a unit, you start to drive it and hear a travel beep. Most customers do not like that travel beep. So I would enter the user settings, come here, hit my bell till I see a 0 in that third entry, and then I will key that in. Once that is set, we should not have any sound while traveling. If your customer does like the travel beep and would like to be able to turn it off on the fly, when driving the portable, press the collimator light on the tube head or collimator control area, and the sound will be muted for the time that you drive. The next time you come and drive that unit, the beep will return and have to be muted again. As I said, generally speaking, I will set that to 340 and then just key it in and move on from that spot. This section takes advantage of the smart charging technology on the FDR Go Plus. The ABC stands for automatic battery charging. This entry in the mouse field is what's controlling how long before that option or function is applied. By hitting the plus or minus, you can move between 15-minute intervals, then 30 for the 30 to 60. Generally, I will set this at 15 minutes for the auto battery charge or automatic battery charge. I want this thing to go to sleep quickly, and I want it to start its automatic charging quickly. With the smart charging technology, the system is designed to automatic power off, automatically charge your battery. Should it need charge, it will charge. If it doesn't need charge, meaning it is full, it will recognize that and shut off the automatic charging. This blue light and the horizontal arm will blink blue. Should you enter into a situation where you need to charge this portable quickly, our strong suggestion is to turn the key off, plug the unit in, and charging will begin relatively quickly. Usually within a few, maybe 15 or 30 seconds, you'll see that the system will start to charge. Once it fits full charge, it will terminate that charge so you don't overcharge your batteries. If you do make changes again, you do have to key that in to record it. FPD, don't really go there. This one, though, is kind of important. Sorry, I'll go back around the circle here till I get to it. NDR, that is our night drive mode. And what that is designed to do is to decrease the volume of every tone that this portable produces by a percentage, and actually does turn off certain sounds. Generally, what we do is we would put to dash dash to turn this feature off. Most customers would prefer to have the sound turned on so that anyone in the area of the X-ray image can hear the exposure prep and exposure sounds. When you do turn on NDR, it is on a 24-hour cycle. If you did, you would be turning it on based off of your time here. So if I wanted the night drive mode to sound reduction to start at 8 p.m. and go till 5 a.m., that is how I would set it. And then I would press the key to record it. And now at 8 p.m., the sounds would be reduced. And then at 5 a.m., they would return to normal. There are some sounds that are turned off. For example, the bumper detection sound is turned off when NDR is activated. Other functions, the sounds are reduced. There is a significant reduction in the sound of the exposure indicator as well as the prep. So in very loud environments, hearing those two sounds may become difficult if the NDR is turned on. From my perspective, I generally will talk to the customer and ask them prior to setting this or turning this off. To record, press the key button. And that is about all on the user settings that I think anyone would need to go to. If you do need an adjustment in the top speed or steering control, again, I'd work with service to make those changes. I do want to bring your attention to this PID stuff once again. I have seen situations where a site actually had 3 different PIDs active on a unit, meaning they had that 001875, they had a 11111, and then their engineer had put a 22222. The applications person was setting things in the user settings, and another operator would come onto the unit, and I'll give you the example. The travel sound was off when some users used it, and then other users would go on to the portable, and they would complain that there was a travel beat. What had happened was someone was setting the user settings here using only one of the 2 PIDs. So making sure that you are aware that each PID would have to have that if you did not set that using the 001875. So just for clarification, be aware that there can be multiple PIDs in here. Depending on which one you are logged in under, will control which one you're affecting. Globally, using the 001875 is my strong suggestion on that topic, and you should have no problems. While we're in this area, and to close it, all you have to do is press the user settings button, and you'll return to general function. I did want to show you a few features in this area, though, just so you can see what I had mentioned earlier, and then one of the most important functions that I can bring to you today. So the first one I want to talk about is our tube warm-ups. Our tube warm-ups are described to be done at least once a day, or when the tube is cold. To do that, there is an actual tube warm-up function embedded in the generator. To activate that feature, you would press and hold the CR button, and it will engage a light on the top, at which point you are in CR mode. Then press the 0 button. The display will say tube up, tube warm up. We're going to make 3 exposures. When discussing this with my customer, will ask them to start at 80, make the exposure. Immediately, the system will jump to 90, and then 20 seconds later, you'll be able to take your second exposure. It will immediately jump to 100, excuse me. And then 20 seconds after that second exposure, you would be able to shoot your third shot. At which point in time, you can either load a DR menu or just turn the key off and then turn the key back on, and you would be able to proceed further in the system. Ray, can you switch to the FDX console? So you guys are probably familiar with our user utility and service utility, but as this drops down, I would like to take a moment to describe a few things. I am going to discuss the service utility settings. Not all of our dealers or channel sales do set up security functions, but I wanted to take this opportunity to encourage sites to or dealers to include security when necessary or when asked. Setting up the security on this unit is quite easy, and I will go through that process shortly. I'm going to hit the Shift and Terminate key to close the user utility and return to the desktop. I will activate the service utility. There aren't many service utility settings that are critical for you to any different than a general system when setting it up. I did want to show you, though, specifically with this system, 2 or 3 things that I think will be helpful to your end users. Obviously, all of the trimming, copy image function, all of those service utility setups in a prior video should be set up. I wanted to make sure, though, in this instance that I hit 2 specifically. The first one being our security function. When turning on the security function, I strongly suggest that you go in through the groups. It just makes it easier for you to work in them. It combines all of the functions together for you. So in this instance, as I come into groups and then go to systems, I'll click on security function, and immediately we can see enable security. I can either select that with the down arrow. I have a choice of ID and password, which most sites will be. I did want to take the opportunity today to actually show the workflow for including smart cards. So what I'll do is set up one that will include the smart card or ID password. Generally, most of our sites who do not incorporate the RFID card will set up our security function using ID and password. So for this situation, I'm going to select smart card and ID password. Reason being, I do want to show how that smart card is programmed. Link user account to operator's name, definitely. Time to auto log off, 10 minutes is perfectly acceptable. This is where we get into a little bit of gray area. How long should the term of the password be? Generally speaking, most sites will allow you some freedom here. This setup that you see right here is actually quite good. And from a technologist perspective, they will appreciate what you've set up here. In this instance, the term password is 0. When it's set to 0, there is no end time for that password. Notify term password set to 0 will never notify the technologist to change their password or user password. What that does is it makes the technologists happier. They will not be constantly prompted to change passwords every 3 or 6 months. And these are pretty secure. So it's more just to link the imaging that is performed or rejects that are performed with that technologist's name. I do keep 10 to no so that the user doesn't get locked out after 3 attempts. Login failures, again, setting it to 3 is pretty good and fair. And that's about where I would leave this. The other one I'd like to show today is under imaging. Imaging support. And I just want to make sure everybody is aware here that if you are copying markers, there's multiple locations for that. But in this one specifically, you have reverse marker position. So like if you've copied an image and it's on an inverted, that 12/5 is telling the system how to move your marker relative to its original position. If you want that marker to stay exactly where it is, you can type the 0/0, and that will keep the marker in its similar location or exact same location as the original exam. Other things that are on this entry specifically is that you have your enable exposure index function should your site be looking to use deviation index rather than S numbers. You also have the ability to turn on a DI or deviation index warning in entry number 6. And then you would be able to set your DI warning range. Most sites would be -3 to +3 for that one, or -4 to +4, providing the technologist with a window of well over 100% over or under exposure and still be within their deviation index. Number 9, definitely put that to yes. That just allows you to see your S number on the menu, as well as on the display or the overlay that would be your working X-ray image. Number 10 and 11, I'm sorry, 10 on this one, enable SNL value restriction function. Basically, that will prompt the technologist when completing the study that their S number is outside of the range provided by the menu. Some sites like it, some sites find it to be laborious. Generally speaking, the technologist that pays attention, it will cause them an annoyance, because if they are only one S number off, so the range was 400 to 600, we'll say, or 400 to 800, and this S number was 399, they will be prompted with a warning message when completing the study that they should review the image. Some sites that are new, I definitely encourage the site to allow us to keep that restriction function turned on to yes. Some of the more developed sites, leaving it no is okay, and you'll have happy technologists. The other one I wanted to show you today in this system is your media device. From app's perspective, if a site lost wireless connection to PACS for any period of time, maybe they don't have a Cat5 or Ethernet cable connection that's live, so there's no drop that's live. In that situation, the site should have some avenue to take the images from the FDX console and put them to a encrypted USB stick. When I have this conversation with my customers, I try to encourage them to work with IT to develop a HIPAA-compliant process to upload images to that thumb drive if there was an emergency where wireless connection or direct connection becomes unavailable for a prolonged period of time. To do that, you would go to the group, system, media device, and what you're going to do is edit this number 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 16 too, to allow this to transfer to the thumb drive with the same image quality, bit depth as you would see in packs from a wireless connection. There is a PDI license that has to be purchased for you to burn to a CD or burn to a USB stick, but the PDI license provides you with a viewer. We are not talking about the PDI license key. This is a general function that is available at any time for your customers. The only thing that will not be given on that USB stick is a DICOM viewer, which is what you really are paying for with the PDI software. So in that setting on number 10, if you know your drive letter, you could establish that as C, D, E, F, G, whatever the drive letter used would be. Your PDI LUT here, there usually is about 2 lines worth of a directory for it to locate a LUT. Please remove the LUT. This section, number 11, should be empty. For PDI use multi-byte, please set that to no. Your syntax will either be JPEG lossless or explicit VR little endian. Generally, I would work from the JPEG lossless. That's my preferred. Your PDI image bit stored is your bit depth. Please set that to match what is actually being sent to packs. And you can see that in the network settings area. When you get to your PDI normalize, please set that to no to provide the full bit depth and grayscale that should be available to the radiologist for viewing. You do see you have a choice of 10, 12, or 14-bit depth. Please choose the one that matches the presentation that's being sent to packs. From an apps perspective, or Fuji, we are encouraging people or our partners to set up with it normalize no for the full spectrum of available shades of gray, 14-bit depth, and then your either JPEG lossless or little endian settings. Number 15, normalize no, that's we just described. Number 16, though, that is an interesting one. One of the features that was released in one of our prior FDX versions was the ability to output a linear raw image to a thumb drive or to packs. If that is necessary, you can set number 16 if you do want a raw image being available to a physicist. That's who's going to probably use that. Or if there's an image quality control specialist that needs to see the raw image as well as the processed image, setting 16 to yes allows the output of that linear raw image to the external USB stick. With that, I will move over to setting up our user utility. Once we've established the user utility or security function as being on, you could type VIP or guest for a long time, and it will never actually successfully start the user utility. When you've turned on security as a function, you'll have to, on the first time in, use our service password for end user name, which is capital F, capital F, capital S, and then a lowercase ER, VICE. So it's capital F, F, S, and then all lowercase ERVICE. And our password will be field engineer, all lowercase. Once you've used that password and username that first time, If you're setting this up, go right into table settings. And the first thing I set up in the user settings here for table settings is our group management, which is right here. You have 3 levels of privileges that you can give to the customer. Generally, I set it up so that there will be administrative password and a user password. Out of hundreds of FDR Go Pluses, I've never created a power user or an intermediate level. I've had no need to. But when you're setting up your administrator, highlight the entry and then hit edit. You want to ensure that each and every one of those selections is available for the administrator. Once you've activated all of them, it allows them full functionality to the system. For the general user, highlight, hit edit, and the first time in, you'll see it will be primarily blank. From there, I would strongly suggest not including delete study for a general user when security is activated. Talk to the super user or manager before setting these up. Generally, I will set up allowing them to move study between or images between study. I avoid starting the user utility. Trimming change before, absolutely, depending on the room. Patient information change, I definitely want them to be able to do that. Trimming after exposure is critical to clinical use. Changing our shadow mask or blackening is also something that they should. Our flexible noise control on and off change and modify FNC parameters. I've gone to some sites where I've seen them set up without that button selected. Usually, that's going to prevent them from having virtual grid control. When we start the FDX console, you'll see that with the FNC button, there will be a VG in that QA function. And if this is turned or left off, the technologist would not be able to adjust virtual grid. So definitely these two I do turn on so that the technologist has control over virtual grid. SV linear output, that's that conversation we just talked about. For a general user, they didn't need to do that. Usually your super user administrator would work with that function. I prevent them from changing the technologist's information settings as well as user group management. Once you've set them appropriately, select OK. Click OK once more. And to enter your information, you'll see that the image that comes installed will usually have this look to it. My first step is to delete these first or bottom 3 or 4, and then start with this top one. I then edit it, and I put in my first entry. So in this instance, I'm going to call my name CY. My username can be CY. My password will be CY. If you notice, I have the ability here to generate a user group for this entry. In this instance, I'm going to give myself administrative privileges. Should you have purchased or your customer purchased the RFID login, it does speed things up. There's no typing. You just flash the card against the card reader on the back of the portable, and the user is logged in. This is for the FDX console. This is not talking about the portable PID password. So to do that, you'll see here it says register. In this instance, I want to delete. I've already played with this unit a little earlier today. So to do that, all you have to have is the card, press it against the RFID reader, and then hit register. You'll see a green check mark saying that it's been registered. And then from that point on, the technologist will be able to use this RFID card to log in as the administrator. If I was doing a general user and I wanted to control them, I would repeat the process just as I did before. Click OK, and now I am registered as a general user. If I was to need to register, let's just say a general user. Oh, I have to edit that. I have to put that back to where I want to be. I'm going to put me as administrator. Sorry about that. My second one, I need to register, correct? So you can enter from 00 to 99 as your technologist code. Since I'm already on 00 with my first entry, I'll enter my second one. Generally speaking, you should be able to jump even 5 if you lose track. Just jump a couple down, 5 at a time, and you'll be able to have room to put additional ones. It's pretty easy to do. In this one, I'm going to give them the most generic possible username and password, which is what you'll see most often at sites, is they want it simple, but they just want to exclude their general users from certain functions such as delete. And then they also want a link to the technologist or super user. In this instance, I'm going to give them the user function, and I've already registered them that one card I had access to, so I'll leave this one with just the username and password. Once I've completed that, I could repeat this over and over again till I've covered all the technologists. Most likely, though, what you'll do is work with one of the super users and show them how to register the technologists, especially if they're going that granular to the tech level where each individual tech has a username and password. Once you're completed, you hit the OK button and you're done. Text marker settings, you're welcome to enter into that. With our APRs, I should say, and our DICOM information available, some sites do like to have access to the annotation or text annotation area with the DICOM tags available, such as acquisition time, exposure, and KVP or mass. Depends on the site. You would just look for that on the right-hand side and then highlight. Let me pick one that's a little better, more applicable. Maybe we want MA as well. So once you have selected it, just register it and it will enter into the list in order of selection. Now, once let's just say you have 3 portables, maybe even 3 portables and 2 FDX consoles, and you've labored and created your username and password for 50 texts. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to re-input all 50 of those texts. So what I want to do is just take a moment to show you that you can actually back up that information with the username and password. And what you would be able to do is transfer just those usernames and passwords between platforms. So to do that, you would select backup, and the one that you're going to pick or activate, if that was all you're moving, we would not cross platforms with anything else. But if you just wanted to move your username and password for those 50 technologists, back up, make sure when you name this folder, and you can see the backup process in one of the other videos, but make sure you put a naming convention on that just so you alert someone that you've only pulled the technologist information on that backup. You don't have the menus because you don't want to cross menu platforms. So you don't want to put your FDR Go Plus menus on any other unit, or vice versa. You wouldn't want to put a Devo Suite menu set onto your portable. I can guarantee you that it will not work properly. So in this instance, if I was just pulling my technologist name or username and passwords, again, I would only select the technologist's setting information, hit the start button, let it record that or back that up, hit the terminate, and then you would use the restore feature. And when using the restore feature, you would just be picking that user settings. That's the only one that would be available to you. So you wouldn't have a possibility to restore the menu settings because you didn't back that up. One of the other things I'm going to try to encourage with this presentation is the measurement function. If we go to our shortcut QA functions, it should be the same as you would on any other platform. You have your rotations, maybe a magnification, maybe an annotation here. You can't see my finger. You got your trimming function here. Then you have your copy image function, especially if they're doing line placements, including that copy image function is definitely important. Smart QA, that's where you would see your S number restrictions or your deviation index restrictions being available to the customer. The one I wanted to go to for the measurement function is your QA functions. If you notice, I have turned on the measurement function, and that is placed somewhere on the QA list here. I will review the QA function shortly with you guys and ladies shortly, but that would be one of the functions for, especially on the portable. It is not for diagnostic purposes. It can be sent to PACS, the image. It is not saved permanently on the FDX console software. You'll do notice, though, considering my conversation earlier regarding the FNC being on for a general user, having access to that FNC function opens up their ability to use the virtual grid processing tool. Click OK. I'm going to click terminate and bring up the user FDX console. Hey, Ray, can you switch to the live camera? So while this is booting up, I want to move towards showing you some of the features of the actual portable itself. Move it around a little bit, give you guys and ladies a pretty good view. One of the things I would like to make sure, all of our lock releases are one-handed lock releases. Whether it be the handle, whether it be the arm here, when working with partners, letting your technologists know where these locks are will improve their workflow in front of the patient. One of the nicest features of the portable Go Plus is that it's got a dual collimator controls on the front and back of the collimator head. The face has actual measurements that are accurate. One of the things I do talk to the technologists about is when doing virtual grid images on bariatric or large patients or any virtual grid image, trusting these measurements accuracy for field size corresponding to the actual film size can be accomplished using these and an accurate SID measurement. Please take the time to show the technologists that there is a tape measure available for measurement of your SIDs. That should be discussed when handling your S numbers as well as your virtual grid function. Those virtual grid menus are built for specific distances, and image contrast can vary depending on the SID used. There are two torsion locks. This one here allows control on how easy the collimator head swivels. This torsion lock controls the interior and exterior angle lock or resistance to movement. One of my favorite lock releases to show, especially at sites that have had our portable, I'm going to just turn a little Ray for you, is this lock release right here. This lock release is not only to remove or allow it to leave the cradle. That's what most people think. It is actually an all lock release. And when that all lock release is activated, it allows you to swing the tube and have all locks released. So when working in a sterile environment or an environment where the technologist doesn't want to lean on top of the patient, they can use this to work with their partner and then release the all lock release to engage the brake. Using a combination of those two can be very important and ease of use for the workflow of that technologist. When using this all lock release, I do bring the technologist's attention to overhead obstructions, as well as people or things that might be hanging from the ceiling. So encourage some careful use of this, but it is a function that sometimes is missed. This is our light here. It will blink. It will, when charging, it will turn to amber, yellow, and it will blink red occasionally. I do have a cable hooked up so that we get a live feed off the FDX console. But we do have our storage here. You see it?
Yeah.
So we have our storage area. We have panel positions here. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that this does have a lock that would prevent the panel from being removed from those slots without the password being put in there. So what that is to unlock that lock, press and hold the key and hit the 0 button. I have to put the PID in first. The FPD lock is engaged. It will actually say FPD LOC. To disengage, press the key and the 0 button, and that large click that you heard, I'll repeat that right for you, is key and the 0 to unlock the portable. Can you switch to the live, the FDX console, Ray? Yeah. So our system has started up, and you should see once security has been turned on, I could take the easy way and just pop the card on, and it will log me in. And if you look down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you'll see that it says login CY, which was the one I placed as the administrator. Do you remember we said that I had the privilege of deleting? So if I tried to delete, the system will actually let me delete this study. In this instance, I'm going to hit OK. To switch users from a training perspective, once they've completed the study, either you could tap the menu button on the top right-hand corner and then either log out or switch user. If you switch user, in this instance, we're going to come in as our general tech. By the way, FF Service and Field Engineer will work on this screen for login purposes once security is turned on. Click the OK button, and now if we look down in that bottom right-hand corner, you'll see that I'm in as a tech. To validate that we have that feature turned on, if I tried to delete a study after taking away that privilege, you do not have the authority to delete this study. Just again, showing you the level of privileges associated with each function. I did want to take a moment on our portable here. If you look at our main display here, we do have a soft keyboard here. That keyboard is available by tapping the icon to activate the keyboard. The keyboard can be moved, and then if you adjust the size, you can actually make it quite large. That's a little extreme, but just to show you how big you could get the keyboard. Sometimes when you first walk up to the unit, you'll find that it's exceedingly small. It will be like this. Try to find a happy medium that you, as well as the customer, feel comfortable with. But I usually set it at about that size, and it usually provides an adequate room for the technologist to function and still see the areas of the entry that they need to adjust or type into. Maybe a smidge smaller. So I want to just review where you would find that emergency situation where we had to put the USB stick in and load that. What you would do is tap the down triangle in the top right-hand corner, and then look for the icon with the CD and USB stick with the orange icon. Hit that, and we haven't delivered it, and it can't be on the risk list, sorry. So these studies have to be sent, but basically that's where you would go. Once that is actually a study that has been completed, then you would be able to tell it the drive and whatever file name description that they feel comfortable being HIPAA compliant to output that to that encrypted thumb drive. I will warn you all that if this is a large number of images, burning this to or sending this to that USB stick can take a pretty good length of time. Even in some instances on scoliosis, not that you do many scoliosis on your portable, but any platform, it will take a minute or two for you to burn or send that study to the USB stick. It does take a period of time. So it was the down triangle, USB stick, CD area, click it, and then type in the appropriate drive letter as well as the file name convention. Additionally, I can't show the measurement function on a virtual machine, so I thought it would be a great opportunity to show you guys and ladies this measurement function. So if you go into QA, once an image is open, go to your measurement function. You have the ability to, if you tap the bottom right-hand corner here, you have the ability to magnify the image, reduce the image, make it easier to work with. So let's just mag that up a little bit just to make it easier to work with. At that point in time, I want to measure something. Generally, this is going to be used clinically at bedside by a physician's assistant, nurse practitioner, surgeon, and they've placed, say, an endotracheal tube and they'd like to measure to the carina. How far did they advance, or is it in the proper position, that endotracheal tube? You may see it during intraoperative studies where a physician is trying to measure a movement of the spine when aligning the spine. To do that, what you do is tap that bottom box here with the ruler as well as the angle measurement. Click on distance measurement, tap the screen, and then drag your finger or mouse or stylus to measure the distance or the region that you would like. You can swing the measurement delineator out to the side or away from the anatomy. You have the ability to choose between line color, black or white, depending on the anatomy or how it's visualized on the image. You can change the style, thickness, and font size. Where I wanted to bring it to your attention, though, is this one up here. If we did have storage locations, we would have the ability to send this image as soon as we leave the measurement function, that image would be sent to PACS. If you do want to output this to a storage location, you would select the storage area, select the appropriate PACS destination, and then hit the output key in the bottom right-hand corner. If you were making an angle, and if you wanted to edit it, you can put multiple measurements on, et cetera, et cetera. You can select them and delete them as well, or exit just to get rid of it. I'll go back into the measurement function. I do want to show the angle measurement. It does not do Cobb angles, but you can calculate a measurement. Very easy to do when you do angle. Generally, I've only used angles once or twice, and that was in an intraoperative environment where they were straightening a scoliosis patient's spine. They used the angle and then they were using distance from there forward. That measurement or angle could be sent to PACS the same way the measurement was. Hit the exit button and it's no longer there. If you were to enter back into the measurement function, all of those measurements or angles are no longer available. You'd have to recreate those from scratch. Okay, we're doing good on time. I did want to take the time to show some not yet. Right. Did it come up? Yeah, perfect. That's being shown. Some common warning messages that would populate to the generator control of the FDR Go Plus portable. One of the most common warning messages that you'll see populate on our FDR Go Plus portable are one of the A error codes. Those A error codes will populate when you're holding one of the lock releases. Maybe you're leaning on the handle. Maybe you're holding the lock release on the back of the portable. I don't know how you would do that, but if you do have one of the A error codes, please just remove whatever pressure is on the sensor. What? Yes, I know. What's the time? Yeah. I have 1:30 on my portable, that's why. Oh. So 3 more things and we'll be done. So I did want to show you thank you, Robin. The A error codes are definitely going to see them. Just remove the pressure if you're on the bumper detection. The other 2 that I wanted to make sure you got were F68 here. So if the system is not ready, the shot ready indicator, so they're rushing, and the shot ready indicator, you will populate the F68 error code. The other one that can happen with that F68 is, I call it the smasher. Usually those people will get the F64 error code. In that instance, they're just pressing the exposure switch right to the bottom. They're not doing a prep and then expose. And from an app side, I do want to make sure F76 is covered. F76 is an APR code is missing from the user utility menu. So if you look in the reserved mass entry, that reserved mass entry will be blank or some obscure number like 3,500 or something. In that instance, when that menu is loaded, you would get an F76 error code. And if you can go live, Ray, on the camera. there were two things that I wanted to do as special features. The special features are the emergency brake release. This will only take about a second or two to do each one. So the first one is the emergency brake release. In this situation, the portable drive motor has failed, or maybe your battery's dead. To perform this operation, all you do is turn the key off, press the emergency stop button, use your left hand to press the little white button next to the emergency stop button, and then roll the machine where you need. If you're pushing up a slight incline, push forward, release, and the brake will engage. When testing older platforms, this is one that I test every single portable I touch, especially the older ones. If the battery that supplies the emergency brake is dead, this unit will not do the emergency brake release. That should be changed during normal preventative maintenance. The other one I wanted to show today is the bumper detection override. The bumper detection override happens to all techs. We run them into a wall. You hit a wall so hard that you've either bent the carriage for the sensor or damaged the sensor. In that instance, you have this lovely beeping sound. To fix that one, and it's not to fix, I shouldn't have used the word fix, to override the bumper detection, you would turn the key off, press the collimator light button on the generator, and turn the key on. Hold that till you hear a beep. Once the beep is heard, put in your password, 1234, and you'd be able to drive without the beeping sound. And that keystroke was turn the key off, press the collimator light button, turn the key on. That's the beep. And then you'll be able to drive directly over or through without having any difficulty. If the bumper detection is actually engaged, you only have the ability to back up. And with that, I will end my presentation. I wish we had a little bit more time, but basically that will give you a pretty good idea on how to work and present this portable, I hope, to your customer or